Thank you for coming today. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Florian Byers, accessibility expert at Dexit. Please welcome Mr. Byers.
Thank you. Thank you. So, as you guys can probably see by the fancy braille device in front of me, I can't see anything. So can I have a hey? See how many people are in here? Hey. Hey. Can I have a ho? Ho. Can I have the 4 digits of your social security number? No? Okay, well, was worth a shot. Okay, the thing we just did, it was 3 things. It was one, a little bit of social engineering, because this is RSA. Second is you guys gave me way too much power putting me in front of this microphone, getting you to say hey ho. Third one is you just accommodated me without really doing anything all that embarrassing, overt, or difficult. I now know there's a bunch of people in there that are okay with audience participation. This is important. All right, so we're having a fancy slide right now on the screen about the community. I don't have much to say about the community, so I'm going to move on from that a little bit. Here's the first slide here. That just has the title on it. I'm gonna be describing these very briefly for people who can't see them. Like, this is on demand afterwards, so people who like get this slide later may not be here for people to be told what the slide contains. So now and again, I will pause and do audio description. I'm not an audio describer, but I will do my best. This just has my name on it, Florian Byers. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a blind person. I do a lot of things. I'm essentially an accessibility know-it-all in all sorts of respects. I make content on YouTube and Twitch. I do accessibility teaching, training, remediation, and testing. I'm a bit of a coder, and I'm a bit of a hacker, so I get to essentially combine all those things to essentially give this talk today. And thank you so much for the RSA committee to let me do that. Can I move this a little closer? Yes, I can. All right. So, what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about accessibility, what that even entails, like how it works, how it relates to various other security things in like the whole entire show, as it were. I'm going to do a little bit of magic here. And now I can move this here. There we go. Much better. All right. So let me move on to the next slide. This is a disclaimer, like, you know, one of those. When I go to the US here, I'm always amused by all the medical disclaimers that we get at the end of literally every advertisement in the universe ever, like between like TV programs. That's basically what this is. Essentially, it says that everything I say is what I say and not what RSA believes. So if you have a problem with what I say, you have to take it up with me and you can't complain at them. That's basically what the disclaimer says. Next slide. We got out of my league. I am out of my league here. I'm essentially in San Francisco, like miles and miles away from home. And honestly, it scares what? It scares did the FCC hack my laptop? Why can't I say, yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. It scares me. Like, I've never been before. Like, I look at the speaker gallery. It is like, the CEO of the FBI, the leader of Target, the NSA is in prison. Like, I'm just a Joey Johnson from Cityville, Idaho. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I'm here, but essentially what I do is I was actually comforted by one name on the list. There is Jim Browning. He's like a Scottish YouTuber, and it literally just said YouTuber. Like, yeah, that's my people right there. And even has a lot more subscribers than I do, though. Anyway, I need to try to not speed rap at you guys, because I am used to very fast speech. You're going to be hearing a little bit of that later in a video that I'm going to play. But that is essentially why I'm out of my league. There's like people with Armani suits, and I'm here in a little blazer that I got from Target. So that's what we're doing. That's the group I represent. I'm a regular person, registered trademark, and I'm a person that wants access to things and stuff. That is really what I stand for. Accessibility is basically that. If we break the word down, it's the ability, just the pesky I because of Latin, but it's the ability to access things. And in security, that usually means you have the password. And in non-security, it means you have the means to access the information in front of you. It could be digital information, could be a building without a ramp, could be all sorts of things that essentially indicates when we were designing this content, when we were designing this place, this venue, we thought of the fact that not everyone has legs that work, not everyone has eyes that work, not everyone has the exact same facilities at their disposal that I do when I'm designing this. And that could be anything from like cognitive to visual, like myself, to auditive, but it could also be things like financial. All sorts of things of that nature can inhibit someone from accessing something, rendering something inaccessible. And that is where essentially we're starting today. I just moved to the next slide. The title says, "The problem accessibility just as important as security." And the reason I say that is because there is a lot of that not quite happening going on a lot of the time. Basically, what goes wrong is that when we do security, we get a lot of excuses, don't we? Like when we as pen testers, when we give an audit to a client, we might hear things as simple as, well, we don't have the manpower for that right now, or we don't have the money, or we don't have the skill set to fix it. We have really old computers, and I don't think they would like work with the patches that you're proposing. Accessibility is a very similar field in that respect. Like there's a lot of things happening where we get those very same responses. Like if I tell a company they're not accessible to me as a blind person, I get that, essentially that response. And it's usually all corporate masking speak for you're not important enough to spend money on. So that is what essentially people are hearing when they receive excuses like that. And we can wrap that up in sugar and make it all taste good, but it really is that. Like you did not meet our requirements in order to make effort and take time out of our day and take money out of our wallets to fix the thing that we broke for you. And that is a problem. So I'm saying the problem is accessibility just as important as security. Can do. It should already be in present. Just a moment. I stream on Twitch, and this is very, very familiar to not. Is that better? It is not having it. Huh. Well, there's my notes. It's not having it. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. This is a Windows computer. It's always going to have some kind of interesting thing happening. I'll just keep talking while they sort this out. Basically, what I was going to say is that a lot of the time what happens is, there you go. A lot of the time what happens is, yeah, so what I wrote down in my notes is security audits and accessibility audits often get the same answer. Small team, not enough resources, knowledge is lacking, not enough priority. Security tools / course developers should know the frustration of hearing these excuses, and yet, ... And that is very, 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 very fair, because like I've seen so many things that go horribly, horribly wrong all over the map. Like basically, I've been doing cybersecurity content on Twitch and YouTube for a year now, almost a year, and there is a lot that could just be better. I'm going to try to play a video. This is a very interesting experiment as well, because I'm going to audio describe, and I'm fully expecting this to fall over and make sure that you guys either can't see it, can't hear it, or both. So if that happens, you have my experience, you'll live. Let's see. Okay, so, is that video visible?
All right, what is this?
It's audible. Hang on, let me do magic here. Now it is. Yeah, go for it. So essentially what this is, I'll just talk about it while AV Tech here does this thing. I'm about to show you a video of essentially a pretend stream. I did this in my streaming setup where we're going to look at a bit of an interesting situation. I'm looking at a a platform called TryHackMe. I'm going to name and shame in some respects. I'm not going to do this too often, but it will come up from time to time, and I'm definitely naming and shaming these guys. Sorry, guys. Good. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a room called Windows Fundamentals. So this is the absolute beginner of beginner of beginner. This is not complicated material. I will pause now and again to give audio description, like I said I would. Let's have a look at this together. There will be me speaking over the video, so don't get confused. If you see the lips move, it's me. If you don't see the lips move, it's other me. Let's go.
All right, what does that say? The virtual machine should open within your web browser. If you want to access the virtual machine via remote desktop, use the credentials below. That is what we're going to have to do, because the in-browser way TryHackMe renders their VMs is completely inaccessible. We can't use that as a screen reader user, so we're going to have to use the remote desktop client in Windows to do this.
I'm pausing here to indicate that I'm typing remote desktop into the start menu here. It's bringing up just the Windows remote desktop client.
So let's just open that up real quick. Here it is.
Amusingly, and we're going to come back to this in a second, I'm doing a lot of things in this video very much on purpose that make videos inaccessible. We'll go into that in a second.
I've turned the speech off for now. That is what we're meant to be hearing when Windows comes up, at least some kind of speech telling us what's happening on the screen. Just at a very slow, a lot more slow rate than what we just heard. Show options, put the username in.
I'm typing administrator.
Then we tap to the connect button. With a little bit of luck, the password prompt should come up.
It does.
Yep, there it is. And the password is let me in 123 exclamation point. Let's go. Do we want it? Okay, some warning about trusted certification errors. I'm guessing it's fine in this case. There. Now, we are in the Windows machine, a remote machine, and what you would want to do as a blind user is to turn on the screen reader on the remote end, because that's the only way you're going to get a screen reader up. So we'll do Windows R.
Opens the run dialog.
Narrator. And oh dear.
Not sure how visible this even is, because this is kind of not great font-wise either for a lot of people to be able to read, but essentially a pop-up is on the screen that says, heads up, narrator commands have changed. This is an indicator that narrator is in fact running, but we hear no audio, and the reason for that is because there is a Windows machine on the other end that should pass audio back to the computer that the remote desktop is initiated from, but that's not happening. So essentially the screen reader is talking, it's yelling its little heart out, but we can't hear it. And that renders this whole entire thing inaccessible. This has also been mentioned several times to the company in question. And let's just say that's been, actually, I think I mentioned how long that's been a thing in the video. Let's just keep watching.
At this point, we should be hearing speech, but unfortunately, because of the way these machines are built by TryHackMe, we don't have speech. We haven't had speech for 7 years. We're probably not going to have speech for another 7 years if the track record of how I've been talking to them about this is going to continue the way it has been. Please do better. Thank you.
So yeah, a pretty long time. It's been a while. I've been railing at these guys for years. But yeah, essentially, it's such a small thing. It's a thing that there is a technical solution for this, and I think that is one of the people. A lot of people are tired. A lot of people are frustrated, and the people are frustrated because this isn't new stuff. Like this accessibility guidelines to get this working have existed longer than I have. The ADA, I'm pretty sure, is from 1990. Could be 1991. I always get that confused, but it's still going to be older than me because I'm from 1992, so I get to say that. These kinds of problems get people fired. They get people out of college. They get people broken down, giving up on maybe like a dream career that they would like to perform. This is right here is a problem. This is where a practitioner is meant to come to learn very basic skills. This is the most basic of basic machines. The beginners are going to run into this machine no matter what fancy learning path you take, and they're going to get completely stopped by a technical issue that is completely fixable and should honestly have been fixed years ago. Hasn't been fixed, and as a result, a lot of people will see this room, and essentially conversion is now negative. They'll see this room and they'll just leave. They'll not pay, they'll not subscribe, they'll not care about anything else you do in the future because it is inaccessible, and they're not going to be able to use it. So why keep an eye on it? Why even think they're going to improve? You're building a level of confidence, or level of like somewhat negative confidence within your essentially way of working with things, and also the way of like how you are going to like basically purport yourself going forward. There are tools I don't use out of principle because I know that even if they are accessible tomorrow, they could very well be broken again next week. So that is a problem. That is something you need to be aware of. I'm going to try another video here. This was a try hack me video. This was a practitioner's point of view. The question now becomes, will I have to do magic again to make this work? Yes, probably I will. Let's find out. Okay. Media, open file. So what we're going to look at now is a little bit more along the lines of, there it is, along the lines of what a non-practitioner might run into. So this is very much something that you'll run into if you are working at a company. Shh, is that visible? Good. This is something you'll run into if you work at one of those fancy schmancy tech companies that have a security program. I know it's rare and I know it's painful. I'm sorry if I traumatized anyone just now. But this was made, and I'm going to have to name and shame here a little bit because this is kind of a big deal. Adobe worked on this, as did Carnegie Mellon University. So they're kind of a big name. Big people know who these people are. And I'm going to, at some point, tell you to close your eyes. So this is the audience participation. I'm going to need you to bear with me here for just a second. When I do that, I'd like you to just close your eyes and not open them until I tell you to, and see how much you understand of the video. So let's give you context. Let's give you the context I would have, and then we're going to close our eyes and we're going to bask in the accessibility of this video.
Subject, team activity, plus important tax cues. Hey everybody, the countdown to data, Dave's annual team activity, has begun. Please send in your shirt size so we can get those custom tees made in time for the retreat. P.S. New employees, please reply to this email with your W-2s and bank routing info ASAP so we can get you paid. Thanks.
Not a good idea to do. This is a very bad idea to do. But now I'd like you all to close your eyes and see what happens next. Or, well, don't see what happens next, really.
Dave, excited for data, Palmer. And send.
Hey.
I think the point is clear. This happens a lot. You might even get questions about it, like at what point in the video did someone steal the magic USB key? And this is what employees get to see. Like, this might literally get someone fired if they don't get it right, if they don't like do what like is performed in these videos. Now, this is a bit of a silly example. This is made by like a college, and I'm not hating on Carnegie Mellon for doing this. Like, they clearly just didn't know, and it's fine. Like, their first video was actually very good. I had to do a little bit of digging to even find something that would work well enough for this tutorial, for this talk. So kudos on the people who do it right. There's a lot of people, like a lot of you out there that do really well. So that's really good, and I'm super glad that that's a thing. But yeah, this does go wrong, and it can go wrong in all sorts of really interesting ways. It can go wrong from anything from animations that have no sound whatsoever, or graphics without alt text, or videos without descriptions like we just saw, anywhere up to including just posters on the wall, touch screens where you have to type in a code to get into the door. That's obviously not going to work if you can't see what you're touching. There is like really heavy doors that sometimes for mobility impaired users can be very difficult to navigate. So there is a lot of like security stuff out there that just is incompatible almost by design with what's accessibility is meant to be. And it can be all sorts of different things, and these are just sort of a grab bag of things. The last thing I want to show in this particular slide, like the slides are not, this is not going to be a death by PowerPoint kind of presentation. I'm not good at these, so it's mostly going to have to be me talking and you guys not thinking too much about how the conference is almost over. So the last thing I'm going to show you has no video, it just has audio. And I did that very deliberately. Again, I want to show off what happens a lot in tutorials. So if you're watching a coding tutorial, I use the coding tutorial for this purpose, but this also happens for security tooling. It happens for all sorts of things. Something like this might happen. It might be a little quiet. I can't really do much about that.
So let me get this situated. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just get this into a better starting position. So we're going to come over to the layout. We're going to remove all of this.
Yes.
We're going to remove these fonts. We're going to remove this.
Yeah.
And then right here, I'm going to call this Goat Notes.
So what did the gentleman remove, you wonder? I don't know. I really don't know. But that happens a lot too. There's a lot of, as you can see, if I just do this and then I do that, I'll paste this and put it there, and I'll put it over there, and I'll just stick it with the kitchen sink. I don't think my slides are in the right place. I can't seem to move them. Oh, there it goes. Okay. AV guy, can you come fix it again? But yeah, basically that is a number of examples that we have problems with that just don't quite line up. So this is the problem. This is where we're seeing it not quite doing what it's meant to be doing. And then this is kind of a systemic issue. Thank you. It's kind of a systemic issue that we have to deal with. Oh, way too far down. Oopsie. Let me scroll back up here. The result, inaccessible everything. That's kind of what we've been doing. So I told you I'm super good at PowerPoints, right? Anyway, this is what's been happening. Everything is broken. Is basically what we're getting from this. Let me look at my time here. Yeah, we're doing good. I am right now here standing in front of you at a very fancy conference that is in San Francisco that I had to fly 10 hours and 30 minutes to get to. And there's a lot of interesting things happening there. Like we could talk about this for hours. I only have 45 minutes, so I don't get to do that. But we've looked at some technical changes, technical challenges. We've looked at some cognitive challenges. We've looked at a couple of things. One thing I haven't really mentioned is the financial and like location-based like parts of this. Like a lot of like higher like end courses and programs tend to be a little bit on the pricey side. If we look at things like SANS or OffSec or various other people, I know I'm going into a little bit of dangerous waters here, so I'm going to go very fast. But it tends to be out there a little bit on the pricing spectrum, and it's particularly like egregious because companies generally expect you to have a certain amount of certs, have a certain amount of essentially paid for proof that you know what you know. That could be sort of an accessibility issue as well in some respects, because you need to be able to cough up the dough to get that certification. So I think that is all the results of things, of essentially inaccessible results. And a lot of the problems are stemming from a lack of education. I talked to a gentleman this week. It was very fun. I'm not gonna name and shame this one because I'm nice, but I was asking this gentleman, listen, like, you have a really cool product. Are you EAA and ADA compliant? And those are just the European Accessibility Act and the Americans with Disability Acts. They're laws that I'm sure many of the people in the room will at least have heard of. And he was very happy to tell me, yes, we are compliant. We have all the compliance you could ever need, ever. Like, we've been compliant for 25 years. And I was happy to hear that. So I said, okay, well, are you compliant with these and these and these? Can I, as a blind user, use your software? And he was, as they say across the ocean, flabbergasted. He had no idea that was even possible. He had no idea what to tell me. He sent me back to the marketing department that I just came from, who sent me to him. So it became this whole entire pass the buck thing that was sort of very amusing and very sort of symptomatic of where we are in the industry. I think a lot of people don't know that people like me exist. Like, I'm typing on a Braille display. This is Mr. Tappy. I hope you like him. He does Braille and he does typing, and he's very helpful in these kinds of situations. So I don't have to listen to this all the time. It's a bit much when I'm trying to talk over it and I have to tell it to shut up all the time. So I have that turned off generally for things sort of like this, and I can use Braille instead. I have that option, and some people do. Some people do everything over audio. I couldn't see myself doing that, but then, people are different, and that is really the important thing. In cybersecurity, we're all about standards. We're all about making sure that things meet certain compliance levels. We make sure that everything is like, we can put a sticker on it that says, we did the work, and now it's compliant. And if there's a problem, then, well, we tried. And that's really what accessibility is in some circles as well. There is the ADA compliance, there is Section 508, there is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines that sort of all guide you in the right direction, but they're generally sort of a starting point to start from. And really what you're meant to be doing is talking to people like myself who can tell you, okay, that's what the letter says, but let's make the spirit happen. Let's make sure that we actually can use this properly. Let's move to the next slide. The stick, legal action, fines, being a bad person, registered trademark. Yeah, I'm gonna make this personal now because I think legal action isn't quite hitting it. So EAA is coming into effect the beginning of July in Europe. That means that Europe is going to care about accessibility. Good job, Europe. Only took you 30 years after the US. And that means that not if you're a European company, if you're European, if you have customers in Europe, if you're selling to Europe, that means you now need to start thinking about this stuff. It's not just the Americas anymore that you have to worry this about. And right now, if people haven't been sued and haven't been, and here's the magic word, liable yet, it's gonna come for you at some point, because a lot of things are moving into the public space. Like, cybersecurity is becoming more important every year, and it's just a matter of time before legal hits you if you don't comply with this stuff. And I don't like making it about legal because that means we don't think about humans anymore, and that is kind of true and sad. So I'm going to make this more personal. I'm going to be the baby veal that's making you vegetarian at this point. Right now, I'm making this declaration. If you are a decision maker in your company, and you decide that accessibility is not important, you don't want to include people that are not you, I'd like you to go to LinkedIn, go find my profile, send me a message, and I'd like you to tell me exactly why you figured it was a good idea that I am not allowed to use your product. Now it's personal. Now you have a name. The veal has a name. I am Willie the Veal. This is a thing now. Like, you can't just decide it's a boogeyman in the corner you don't have to worry about. This is a person with a name now. Like, this is something you can say straight to my face. I won't judge you much. But this is the thing now. Spread this around. Tell this to all your colleagues. I don't mind the deluge. If I get a whole bunch of messages, go for it. But this is right here. I'm putting myself out there. If you want to make things inaccessible by design, knowing that you're doing that, knowing that you're excluding people, that's cool. But come tell me. Like, stand up for it. Be the bigger man, all that stuff. Because I don't know if legal action is the answer. Like, it feels kind of meh. Like, I'm going to slap you on the wrist with a $20,000 fine. It's probably like a fifth of what you spent to be able to be on this conference anyway. So we're going to make it personal. We're going to make it about me and mine. What else we got? The carrot, more business, not exclude people, being a good person, registered trademark. So if you don't, want to be on LinkedIn telling me why you figured that you needed to be a bad person today, you get to be a good person. You get to get more business, because there's a lot of people who want to use these things. There's a lot of companies that would value your for example, security education materials being accessible, because that means they can show it to their employees and not fire them. Looking for talent is kind of an expensive prospect, so that is good to do. You're no longer discriminating against people. That's kind of important. And yeah, like I said, you're a better person for doing what you're doing. This is also important. This is a lot of the times what I hope, like as an accessibility professional, gets people across the line. I don't want to be the person yelling that I'm going to sue you or I'm going to send lawyers after you, because that's not a fun relationship to have with people. Like, I want to be able to see that people see, hey, there is a bunch of people that want to use our stuff, and we have oopsied and made sure that they can't. So let's fix that. Like, I would, as a developer, and I am a developer, so I know what I'm talking about here. As a developer, if I get an email like that and it says, hey, you made this in such a way that I can't use it, I'd feel embarrassed. I'd embarrass the eyes out of my skull for that. Like, oh damn, I made this thing for people to use and now they can't use it because of a mistake I made. And that's a mistake. That's you admitting to a mistake. And then afterwards, you fix the mistake. That's how mistakes work. I think that's how we learned in school, how you do it. Is that no longer a thing we do? I don't know. That's just interesting. This slide is because they told me that charts do good at these kinds of things. So I found you a chart. This is a uprising. This is not very recent. This is a couple of years ago, is like the last data point in this chart. But basically what we're seeing is a chart that's going upwards. It's an uptrending chart. And it's the increasing trend of ADA-related lawsuits over the last several years. This is just America. Obviously, Europe is going to be added to the pile. We're not really big suers in Europe, but it does happen. Yeah, this is essentially meant to indicate, hey, we're coming for you. And I can even hack you with my eyes closed. So let's go to the next thing. I forget what's on here. Oh, yeah. So this is important. I'm sure it is. Basically, let me just make sure that I know where I am here. Come on, yeah. Basically, we're coming towards the end of this whole entire thing. I've been going for about half an hour. There's a couple things that still need to be said. That is the important thing I wanna leave you guys with. There is a things like I think you can do to start. Like if you've heard all this and you're like, oh no, what do I do? I think my slides disappeared again, but that's fine. The things that you can do are manifold. Like there's a number of things that you can do, and I think the thing you should always start with is finding the problem, like finding where the issues are. I sort of compared it, like there's a little interview that I was doing before this talk, and I said basically the first thing you have to do to get these things to fix themselves is to admit you have a problem. It's kind of like AA meetings. Like you have to say you have a problem and then you can start fixing it. And that's really where like the first 3 weeks of your effort should go. Like you need to figure out where the problems are. Thanks much. You need to figure out where the problems are. You need to figure out what the damage is. Very much like a pen test. Like do the vulnerability scan, write up the report, do the audit, see where you're lacking. And that is going to require people like myself, people like accessibility testers, people who are disabled, people who need a certain thing to work a certain way for them to be able to use it properly. And I happen to have vacancies. My contract's up next month, so if you need help, let me know. Anyway, the whole thing is you start with assessing where the issues are, right? You assess them, and then, let's put it on here for a bit. There. You assess them, and then you fix them. And well, you assess them, you prioritize them, and then you fix them, right? So it's say you have a video without audio description, you have like assessed that, and then you have some kind of way to fix that. You need to figure out, is it financially viable to fix it right now? If not, we'll have to do it later. If not, we're not having to do it is not an option. Like, you have to fix this. Again, if you don't want to do it, that's fine, but you come to talk to me first. And you're gonna tell me that I'm a bad person and that you're not gonna support me. So that's important. That is the thing we've now agreed on with each other. I'm going to check in with all of you. Anyway, so that's the thing. You start with figuring out where the issues are. Then you start prioritizing them. Like, who is this affecting? Like, how many people is this affecting? Can we fix this now, or do we have to fix this later? And if we fix it later, do we figure out some kind of strategy to check in with this now and again to make sure we're not just dumping it in a, we'll get to this at some point pile on the Jira board and just never look at it again, because that does happen a lot as well. Then you start fixing it, and then you start being super like overt about fixing it, because I think what this industry needs is a lot of exposure. A lot of overt, we're fixing this, we're aware that this exists now and we're fixing it kind of things. And that's really why I'm here. I've been asked to give a talk. Honestly, I'm still very much a baby when it comes to cybersecurity. I've only been doing this for a few years. I don't have any certifications to my name yet. Certifications are a great topic as well. I'll briefly dip into. Essentially, if you want to do any kind of proctored certification, the process is maddening when you need accessibility accommodations. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks. It takes weeks and weeks and weeks. It takes forever. There's all sorts of interesting things happening with it, and you essentially need to ask accommodations for everything. If you mumble out loud when you're reading questions, you need accommodation for that. If you want to wear headphones, you need accommodations for that. If you want to blink your eyes a particularly fast rate, you need to ask accommodation for that. And these accommodation requests go through the paper mill. They take forever, and then they come back to you, and they essentially just, it takes forever. An interesting one was that a lot of the times you have to make a picture of your ID. You have to do that in a very specific way. It has to be framed just right. And you're not allowed to have another person in there because that would break the test rules. So you have to then ask for an accommodation to get another person to come out of their way, to come all the way to your house, fill in a bunch of forms, do like this for like 2 seconds to make a picture of your ID, sit there in the room while you're doing your test the entire time, essentially just twiddling their thumbs, not making sure they're not telling you anything, they're not allowed to breathe, basically. And then once you've done all that, then maybe you get a bad grade and you have to do the whole thing again. That's what certification is like when you're blind. I tried with CompTIA. I'm going to name and shame again. I did this with CompTIA Security Plus. Let's just say I started before I booked my tickets for this flight, and I haven't done the certification yet. That's what it is. And I did the same thing last year for an English exam. The IELTS took months as well. It's not a good place. So there's all sorts of like competing interests, right? I have to be a little fast here because we're almost out of time. But there is competing interests at work. Obviously, we want to make sure people don't cheat, but we also need to make sure that we realize that we're working with people and not cattle in a stable. Like there is such a thing as like thinking with the person and not thinking with the law book. And I think a lot of like certifications might miss that point. Offensive security, again, I'm going to name shame one more time, does a thing where you have to be in like a VPN. That's fair. A lot of the certifications do that. And their thing is you're only allowed to essentially have one machine on the network. Now, the tricky bit with that is that some tools work better on Linux and some things work better on Windows for accessibility reasons. You can set that up to make it work. You can essentially do all sorts of like black magic on the network level to make it all seem like it's coming from one machine, but it is such a headache that it's very much a threshold that people have to step over, and it becomes very time-consuming, but also just spoon-consuming. Like there's just so much happening all at once that you have to keep in mind that I could see that being like a deterrent for people to even take the certification, irrespective of its importance in the industry. So that is another thing to keep in mind. Like keep in mind that you're working with people, not cattle or data points on a data sheet. Now, I'm pretty much done with my ramblings. Like you guys get to ask questions in a second. I will preempt one question that I'm sure I'm going to get because I've already gotten it a few times. Is AI going to fix this? And I'm going to respond to that in the immortal words of Two Unlimited. And essentially say that I think they were ahead of their time there. Because what they had to say was, no. And why is it a no? It's a no because AI is trained on what we do, and we haven't been doing that great. So if you ask an AI how to make things accessible, it's going to give you the popular answer, which very likely is going to be the wrong answer. So no, AI is not going to fix this yet. Maybe later, but not quite yet. And with that, I've been Florian Beyers. If you have questions, please ask them now. And that's all I had. Thank you. If you don't follow me on Twitch after this, I'm going to come to your house and hack your systems. All right. Oh, I can't see your raised hand, so just yell if you have a question or whatever. You're welcome.
Hi, Florian. I have
Hi.
a question.
Yeah.
This is Tiffany Wilson speaking, and thank you for your presentation. Can you tell me some common issues that people encounter and security-wise? Like, is it CAPTCHAs? Is it people who are blind using assistive technology? What are some common errors you see from a security standpoint?
Are you saying blockers that they can get past, or like things that they just don't know about? What is it? What is the exact query that you're asking?
So I work in implementation with assistive technology, and so I'm more working with end users who are trying to access things, maybe their bank statement, maybe a website. So what are common errors that you're seeing that people should take into consideration when they're building these secure access points for consumers?
So there's a number of ones that I've seen pop up over the years that have become annoyingly popular. One of them is the verification of your ID. I just brought it up during the certification thing as well. It's very common in the financial industry. You have to like sort of send them your ID, and it gets very intricate. Sometimes you have to like hold up your ID next to your face, maybe with a little handwritten note with the date on it. If you could sing the Swedish anthem while you're doing it, that would be fantastic as well, but like, that's not generally required. It can get difficult because you have like to have essentially 4 hands to make a picture, hold 2 things up, and then also like do all sorts of other things happening at the same time. So that is really difficult to do. Even things like student ID verification for, say, an education benefit of some kind requires you to not just upload a JPG of your ID or of your student card. You have to actually make it picture of it, and it has to be properly in the sort of halfway AI assisted framing, which does not give you any prompts to do that. So you're essentially just hoping, like you're shooting blind, quite literally, and hoping that you'll be able to get enough of it in view to make sure that the AI overlords are happy with it, basically. And that is one thing. Another thing I see a lot is CAPTCHAs. You already brought them up. Some CAPTCHAs are very finicky. Like there is one. I said I wasn't going to name and shame anymore. Okay, there's one called HCAPTCHA, which is essentially they do this thing where you have to click all the red stoplights or whatever. And then there is one way to get around that. It's called an accessibility cookie. Basically, you give them your email address, they send you a link, you go to the link, you get a cookie, you go back where you came from, and then you pray that the cookie actually works. There's all sorts of problems with that, particularly for cognitive, because like by the time you've done all that, you may be completely forgotten what you were doing. And a lot of the time it just outright doesn't work. Like it literally won't let you in. And Blue Sky, one of the bigger social networks, actually has, or maybe had, or maybe even still has this going on, which means that people outright just cannot do that by themselves. Last one, PII. So a lot of the times you need to fill in a form with personal data or copy some kind of bank statement, send it to a random guy. And that has personal identifiable information on it, people are very flippant about just get another person to do it for you. Obviously, that is a huge privacy red flag. And there's all sorts of other problems why you might not want to do that at any given point, up to and including not having a sighted person in my pocket the entire time to whip them out when it's convenient for other people to not have to fix their bullshit. Hey, I got one past you, FCC. Anybody else?
Yes. Sorry, I'm way too tall for this microphone.
You're good. Yell. I can hear you.
I'll yell instead. Florian, this is Megan from SANS. Something that I thought was really poignant that you said while you were speaking is that the cybersecurity industry is all about compliance. And yet, in my experience as a product manager in the industry involved in engaging vendors with different cybersecurity tools, I find that when the conversation comes up about compliance, they either can't answer the questions about accessibility, compliance, and conformance, or they give you the runaround, or they don't allow contract language during redlining into their process. So that being said, for you as a user, and I kind of can tell from some of the examples that you shared in your presentation, but for you as an end user, when you try to engage with these companies and these tools that are out here, do you find that filing tickets with customer service or whatever their engine is, are they receptive to your feedback and saying, hey, we'll work on it? Or is it a mixed bag of sometimes you get responses, sometimes you don't? Or do they just kind of direct you back to a page that says things about privacy and security, and they're like, see if there's anything about accessibility there? I'm kind of curious because it's something that I run into a lot. People say that they have all the compliance, but when it comes to accessibility compliance, then everything goes quiet.
It's a very interesting question. The reason I'm being a little mean to try hack me is that I've essentially been going around like water cooler with them for years now to get things fixed. And they essentially do the thing where they tell me they're going to and then they don't. But it's a very mixed bag. And actually, amusingly, I've gotten more positive responses from open source developers generally. Like, they often don't know how to fix it, but they're at least willing to like hear me out and listen to me. Like the more corporate I get, like it seems like the more like difficult it is to get a person that's thinking and not just echoing the protocol, as it were. And that can get really sort of, it can break you down. Like at some point you just don't care anymore. Like I honestly don't know. Many tools I've talked to, for example, Burp Suite is a great example. Still naming and shaming. That I've talked to a few times, and they just, it's an industry standard tool. Like you should be like embarrassed about how bad it currently is UI wise, but they just don't care. I get nothing back from them, so it's like, it's very dependent on who you're talking to. Like I am almost deliberately calling out companies to prove me wrong at this point, because like I am not lying here. I have the email screenshots to prove it. But yeah, it really depends on who you're talking to, and I very much have that same experience of, yeah, well, sometimes you get a response, sometimes you get nothing back, sometimes it's literally quiet for years. Like I could share things that essentially like illustrate that very well. So yeah, very much a similar experience to you, Megan. Anybody else? I don't have a Cricut soundboard. All right, well, I hope this was worth the 45 minutes you spent. I had fun. I hope you guys did too. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.